We good? You guys ready? So I'd like to call this meeting of the Natrona County Planning and Zoning Commission for December 13th, 2022 to order. And my name is Hal Hutchinson. I'm the Planning and Zoning Chairman. To my left is Commissioner Matt Mitchell. To my right, Commissioner Jason Gutierrez. Far end of the table is the Natrona County Planner, Christy Turner. And that's about it. So could we please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so the first item of business is consideration of the November 8th, 2022 meeting minutes. Chair would entertain a motion for consideration.
A motion to approve the November 8, 2022 meeting minutes.
I would second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion, changes, corrections, anything like that? Okay. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? None. Minutes are approved. All right, I think we got hopefully we got a fairly brief meeting tonight. And really there's two things on the agenda. The first being zoning change 22-3, and that's a request by Brandy Forgy and Scott Legursky for a zone change from urban ag zoning district to light industrial zoning district. The property is located off Commerce Drive, 40 acres, and a portion of section 28, Township 34 North, Range 80 West. Property is currently not addressed. May we have a staff report, please, Christy?
So for case number ZC 22-3 for Brandy Forgy and Scott Legursky, they want to change from urban ag to light industrial. The property is located north of Old Yellowstone Highway on Commerce Drive and east of Burris Drive. It is currently UA. The minimum lot size for that is, for what they want to change it to light industrial, would be 2 acres. The property is currently vacant. Adjacent land uses: north is the airport overlay PUD. South is light industrial. To the east is light industrial. And to the west is again the airport PUD. This parcel has the ability to connect in with the airport services when developed in the future for water or sewer. An applicant must demonstrate that at least one of the following criteria is met for approval to be consistent with the zoning resolution. The first option would be that it's necessary to come into compliance with the Natrona County Development Plan. The second option is existing zoning of land has the result of a clerical error. The third option is existing zoning of land is based on a mistake of fact. The fourth is existing zoning of land failed to take into account the constraints on development created by the natural characteristics of the land, including but not limited to steep slopes, floodplains, unstable soils, and inadequate drainage. The fifth option is the land or its surrounding environments has changed or is changing to such a degree that it is in the public interest to encourage a redevelopment of the area or to recognize the changed character of the area. The last option is the proposed zoning is necessary in order to provide land for a community need that was not anticipated at the time of adoption of the Natrona County Development Plan. This applicant seeks a zone map amendment under criteria 1 and 5. The applicant provided the following statement. We would like to rezone this property from urban ag to light industrial. It is surrounded by light industrial and airport land. The last known use was a construction company many years ago, and it's since been a vacant lot. This property is located within Neighborhood 5, which is Airbase Acres, of the 2016 development plan. That plan recommends industrial and commercial zoning. These should be developed by infill with the possibility for a ISD if they needed it for road upgrades. The request to zone this property to industrial is in support of that development plan. There is the current public water and public sewer available through the airport along Commerce Drive, and the airport has no objection to that request. The airport manager has met with the applicant, and they are working on an navigation easement agreement for the property that will outline building heights and restricted uses that cover items like fumes, smoke, dust, steam, anything that would interfere with the airport. And any additional development on that property will be reviewed by the planning department for zoning certificate approval and the airport board for the overall approval of structures and industrial uses. Finding of fact, the zone change to industrial is supported by the development plan and is contiguous to the property already zoned industrial. With the navigation easement agreement, the zone change will meet requirements necessary for the development within that airport overlay area. As of the date of the staff report, there have been no written comments received. The staff sent 30 notices to 32 neighbors. Planning and Zoning Commission may approve the requested zone change after consideration of the public testimony and facts of the case presented during the public hearing. If all the minimum regulation standards for the zoning code were satisfied and after consideration of any relevant factors and upon finding that the request is keeping with either one of the 6 criteria listed in Chapter 10, Section 1 of the 2000 zoning resolution. Should the Planning and Zoning Commission vote to approve the requested conditional use permit, staff recommends the inclusion of the one condition that the applicant continue to work with the Airport Board of Trustees and the airport manager on an agreement for future development criteria and limitations of use as outlined in the airport overlay with the navigation easement.
Thank you. Any questions for staff on the introduction to the item? May we have the applicant come up and maybe fill us in on some of the details? Applicant here? Don't see them.
Doesn't look like they made it.
Okay. Okay, so I guess we'll move right into the public hearing. So this is to open the public hearing for consideration of zoning change 22-3, and that is the request from Brandy Forgy and Scott Legursky for a zone change from urban ag to light industrial out by the airport off Commerce Drive, 40 acres, and part of Section 28, Township 34 North, Range 80 West. At this time, all in favor of the application, would you please come forward? Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in favor of? Seeing none. Anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the zone change application? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to? You may come on up. And if you would, give us your name and your address, please.
Oh, my name is Daniel Schoenwell, and address is 7968 West Yellowstone Highway. Was hoping he would be here to kind of enlighten me on the details, but I spoke on the phone earlier just to try to get an understanding of what it would be. So I own 2 pieces of property off of Yellowstone there, and my biggest concern is just the noise. So there's Pilot Drive, then Burris, Jets in there. It doesn't make it all the way through. So you can see where Pilot. So on the end of Burris over there on the.
If you wouldn't mind, you can walk up.
Sure.
Point it out.
Be right behind me. So right here is what was a giant pipe yard, and just super noisy. all you can hear is tractors, stacking pipe, all sorts of stuff. So we actually had 2 neighbors sell their place and move away a few years ago. My concern is just that the noise is going to start to increase surrounding the neighborhood. Airbase Acres, I think you call it Neighborhood 5, really isn't that big. So we have Casper Creek that cuts through Stockup's place there in between it, which also got zoned, I believe, in 2016 as light industrial. He tried to sell it for more money. He was sick, and I don't blame him at all. I was interested in purchasing it, but it got switched, so he wanted too much money. So, but what he did is end up renting it out to some gentlemen that turned it into a horse pasture.
Okay.
So, really, my biggest concern is just the noise. And like I said, I'm not sure how much of a leg I have to stand on with that, but biggest concern is definitely noise, because if it gets turned into something that is just completely noise all day long, kind of destroys the, feeling of living just outside of town, next to the creek. 45 minutes ago, I was watching like a hawk or some kind of falcon or something eating a rabbit out of my yard. Like last night, the white-tailed deer that live on that property were in my yard.
Oh, wow.
So it's really like the view, because the creek runs through there, so everyone's kind of got that as their view and everything. Like I said, I'm not sure what kind of leg that is to stand on, but my main concern is the noise.
Okay.
So I was just kind of curious about what would be operationally happening there, and noise-wise, how that's going to affect. I did speak with one other neighbor about it, and they weren't going to drive in the snow, but not sure where everybody else stands on it. But I do know that that last pipe yard, it's been cleared out since the dip in oil and gas and everything, but it was definitely a big headache. So
Okay.
I'm not sure if that's anything to stand on. Maybe you can help me with that, or
Unfortunately, all we have tonight is just the request for a zoning change, and we,
Sure.
correct me if I'm wrong, Christie, but we have no indication of what type business may be in mind.
Sure. So I called earlier, and someone let me know they thought it was a possible like trucking company that was going to be utilizing the.
Oh.
Super sure on that. If anybody else out there knows. But,
There'd be another opportunity for Mr. Schoenwolf to come address the commissioners, and I guess the county commissioners, if indeed a business is to be cited there.
That is correct. So where this passes to the BOCC, there's another chance to speak and find more information.
Okay.
okay.
Fortunately, that's the best we can do tonight.
Sure. Yeah. You don't happen to know when that is, or will we be notified when that is, or?
Mr. Chairman, the Board of County Commissioners, it's scheduled for January 3rd, I believe.
Okay. Will we be getting more notices about that, or is that just, because it came out in the original flyer, that was the date that was mailed to us was today, and then January 3rd. So I'm not sure if that'll get pushed out again, or?
I'm not aware of anything that would change it unless you are, Christie.
Mr. Chairman, no, sir.
No, I mean like pushed out as in information-wise, back to the neighbors, like, hey, here's a second reminder, January 3rd, if you would like to be part of the,
Pretty sure that's just what you got is what you get.
okay,
Wouldn't be a second mailing.
sure.
I suppose if you were that inclined, you could get online and check for things, but I guess from what I'm hearing right now, we're anticipating that original schedule to stay.
Okay. All right. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the zone change application? Seeing none, close the public hearing and open the application up for consideration by the commission.
Mr. Chairman, I had a question for staff, if that's permitted.
Yes, sir.
Christie, currently in light industrial, we have permitted and conditional uses. Is a pipe yard a conditional use or a permitted use?
I did not bring my book in, and I do not have that memorized. I don't believe that that's what this particular applicant is looking for. But again, once the zone is changed, all of those permitted uses and conditional use permits are available to an owner. This owner is working with the airport closely in regards to uses next to the airport, so that's what I have right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell?
Chairman, I just have one. So are the green areas, are those residential up there?
Yes, sir.
And the area that's just to the left of it is light industrial? To the left of the green area?
Yes, sir.
The gray?
So-
is that-
Well,
Yes, sir.
because in my map here shows light industrial, I guess that's the area that they said had already been, because that looks, yeah, light,
This is light industrial. That is the urban ag. This is all light industrial, light urban ag, and this is residential, and this is commercial.
and so how's the green area zoned? Is that zoned as,
It's zoned as urban mixed.
so is that consistent with the planning document? Because the planning document said industrial, light industrial, because it seems like they have a residential area right in the middle of commercial and,
So what, Mr. Chairman, what may have been in the zone in 2016 when they wrote for the comprehensive plan? The comprehensive plan is encouraging the infill of light industrial and commercial into that area.
I don't have any further questions.
Okay. Jason, anything else?
I think I would add, my recollection of that property is it was Lobo's construction yard. They were a bridge contractor. They had a lot of cranes and equipments, forms. They built bridges. And that predominantly has been used for that in my memory of that area. And for that to be used for urban ag would be a stretch in my mind. It's surrounded by airport property that is used as, it's a PUD, planned unit development. So there, while there is horses grazing around there, they also have the capability of stacking wind turbine blades or, for that matter, a pipe yard even within the airport. In my mind, it fits more in the industrial type use than it would a urban ag type use.
Okay. Chair would entertain a motion for consideration.
Mr. Chairman, I would move approval of it.
I think there was one condition, wasn't it, that they confer with the airport?
Planning Commission remove approval. We've considered all relevant facts, including but not limited to those set forth in the 2000 zoning resolution of Natrona County, and find that the zone change meets the requirement, with the condition that they continue to work with the airport. I would move approval of ZC 22-3 with a due pass to the Board of County Commissioners.
Thank you.
I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Mr. Schoenwolf, I would encourage you to follow up, and you're probably going to have the applicant available to the Board of County Commissioners on January 3rd, so you might have an opportunity there to visit with them face to face.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's hard to tell me what to do with his land, I'm just more concerned with the noise. There's a, you know, yeah, that section you guys were talking, stock ups right there, that's actually got Casper Creek that cuts right through it. So it's I've seen elk, there's deer that live there, seen all sorts of stuff there. So it's pretty ag. It's hard to see on the map. I understand.
Well, thank you for coming this evening. Next on, so by the way, I forgot to mention up front, hopefully no one is here to address the Mountain Edge subdivision. That's been tabled. So, moving on, the next item on the agenda is conditional use permit 22-6, and that's a request by Bob and Corey Maxwell, doing business as On the Hook Towing, Wyoming Crush, for approval of a conditional use permit to allow an auto reduction and recycling center and use of a crusher in the light industrial zoning district. The proposed location of the crusher is located on 6.2 acres. That's Lot 1 of the Shenandoah Simple Subdivision in Section 34, Township 34 North, Range 80 West, Natrona County. Property is addressed as 67080 Road. Christie, may we have a staff report, please?
For case number CUP 22-6, again, the applicant is Robert and Corey Maxwell, and it's going to be under the YO Crush business name. The applicant is proposing to use the parcel for the auto reduction and recycling. It is at 67080 Road, which is 1 mile west of Highway 26 and a half mile east of 6 Mile Road. It is zoned light agriculture. Light industrial. The minimum lot size is 2 acres. The property is currently part of the On the Hook Towing, which is an auto wrecker service. Adjacent land uses are to the north, it's light industrial. To the south, you have urban ag. To the east is light industrial, and to the west is light industrial. The water source will be used from Lot 2. Lot 2 will be where they share the office space. So they have a well on Lot 2, and Lot 2 also has septic. Lot 1 is the back portion. Criteria for approval comes from Chapter 11, Section 2D. Will granting the conditional use permit contribute to an overall burden of the county? The applicant's response is no county services will be required for the recycling process. Proposed finding of fact, there will be no overburdening of county services by allowing auto reduction and recycling at this location, and no county services will be required. Granting the conditional use permit will not cause undue traffic, parking, population density, or environmental problems. Applicant's response is they are taking all the steps to assure no environmental damage will be done. The entire process will be carried out in a fenced yard. They'll pick up vehicles and bring them into the yard in exactly the same fashion as the towing business, so there shouldn't be any additional parking or traffic issues. As far as the recycling process goes, they have it broken down into how the vehicle will be placed on a rack and how they will handle all the fluids and drains. And then the parts will be packaged and hauled to a recycling depot in Colorado. And the crusher will compact and optimize the capacity for the semi-trucks, which will then haul all that to Colorado. They have a method of collecting all the fluids pumped, and a certified hazmat hauler will be used. All the employees will be certified. The rack will have a secondary containment system in the event of any drainage or spills. And the crusher and rack will occupy and have a heavy plastic membrane laying on the ground and covered with road base, which should prevent anything that will get spilled from reaching its way to the ground. So the proposed finding of fact, there is no additional parking or population density associated with the approval of this CUP. The use of this property as a reduction in recycling is complementary to the current auto wrecker service. Natrona County Road and Bridge did not have any comments regarding the issue. Environmental considerations for operation will be reviewed through the WDEQ permit process. Granting the conditional use permit, will it impair the use of the adjacent property or alter the character of the neighborhood? The yard is between Neighbors Drilling and Custom Fiberglass Yard. The yard is significantly off the main road, so there should be no visual obstructions, and we already have a recorded easement to that lot. Proposed finding of fact, the location currently operates as an auto wrecker service. With the addition of auto reduction and recycling to the back lot will not alter the character or impair the use of the adjacent properties. Will granting the conditional use permit detrimentally affect the public health, safety, and welfare? Applicant response, no, we are taking every step to ensure we have all environmental safety precautions in place to prevent any damage or safety issues. Proposed finding of fact is the WDEQ should be involved in either an acknowledgement, permitting process, and the applicant will be required to operate within the standards set forth by the WDEQ. As the date of this staff report, we did have one written comment, which was in your packet, and one phone call. Unfortunately, they did not submit anything in writing, and staff sent notices to 34 neighbors. Planning and Zoning Commission may approve the requested conditional use permit after consideration of public testimony and the facts of the case as presented during the public hearing. If all minimum regulation standards of the 2000 zoning code are satisfied, and after consideration of any relevant factors and upon finding that the request is in keeping with the 4 required findings listed in Chapter 11, Section 2D of the zoning resolution of Natrona County. Should the Planning and Zoning Commission vote to approve the request, staff recommends the inclusion of 2 conditions: that the applicant contact the WDEQ for any appropriate acknowledgments, permits, or exemptions for the operation of an auto reduction and recycling business, and that the applicant submit the appropriate documentation from the DEQ to the Natrona County Planning Department regarding either that acknowledgement, permit, or exception for the CUP record prior to commencing any operation of the auto reduction and recycling.
Thank you, Christie. Questions for staff? I have one question. You mentioned a phone call was made. Was that an anonymous call, or did someone identify themselves and their address?
He did identify himself. He is a neighbor that is in the back triangle property. Up here. Right up here on that triangle.
Okay.
Right.
Gotcha. I thought. Okay, thank you.
Guess I got a question.
Sure.
Mr. Chairman, staff, did Road and Bridge have any comments on this proposal?
I spoke with Mike a couple of times in regards to this proposal. He went out and measured the approach. It is according to Mike's measurement, it is 21 feet across on their drive. If you look in your packet, there are the 2 trees. So he measured not all the way to the trees. So just what you see in your packet, which he did not have a problem with. On Zero Road, there's also a 66-foot easement that Mike has. So using the shoulder of the road to make the turn in is an appropriate use of the road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
At this time, would the applicant like to come up and fill us in on any details that we might need to be aware of?
Hi, my name is Bob Maxwell. This is my wife Corey, and
You guys,
we run On the Hook Towing, and we've been in this particular property for I think about 3 years, and we don't have a lot of actual traffic. We don't have retail customers. We have the vehicles that we pick up in a wreck or whatever. The people will come out and either pay us our fees for transporting their vehicle, and then they'll be shipped to a body shop or an auction or whatever. So we have a fair amount of truck traffic in and out of our yard each day. We have some semi-traffic, and we've had one incident where a driver was coming west on Zero Road, and he cut wide to the left and was turning right into our driveway, and somebody passed him on the right and clipped off the front of the semi. So that's been the only incident we have. So from now forth, anybody that comes to our facility has to come from the west to the east so they can make that turn comfortably without incident. But that's been the only time we've had any kind of an incident in there. And so this business is not going to increase any traffic at all. It's still going to be the same tow trucks going in and out. We'll be purchasing vehicles from the general public that are sitting there being an eyesore and causing, Lori to go out and do her code enforcement bit. So anyway, we're picking up these cars. We set them on a disposal rack and we, drain all the fluids from them. And once they've been drained, we take off any aluminum parts, catalytic converters, tires and wheels, batteries, radiators, whatever kind of valuable pieces that can be recycled in a reasonable fashion. And once that's happened, then we stick it in a crusher, which is just a little 6-cylinder John Deere motor with a muffler on it. It isn't a obnoxious piece of machinery. We figure we might do, 40 cars a month. It's not like it's gonna be this giant thing. We will have absolutely no retail business associated with this. We're not stripping these cars for parts and, having 50 people a day showing up wanting to buy a motor or a door or a window motor or whatever. It's not gonna be like that at all. So, we'll be clipping out the airbag modules and things of that nature, which doesn't make any noise. There's no real consideration. The only thing was that we knew of consideration was the DEQ stuff. Getting oil on the ground, of course, is a problem. We have a fairly shallow water table there. We don't want to cause a problem because we also work in that building and we have a well. We don't want, and it's groundwater, but still, nonetheless, we don't want that. So, we've created basically a reservoir of heavy plastic and coated it with road base. The road base portion is not complete yet, but we're fencing off a section of our yard to be just for the crusher. The rest of it is still gonna be the tow yard, and then we'll have just one Caterpillar loader that drives around picking up the cars and sticking them on the rack and sticking them in the crusher and so forth. So then it'll be the same semi that we use for picking up industrial wrecks, heavy, semi wrecks and so forth. We'll be hauling these cars to Denver. So, it's two businesses operating still under one roof, and it's nothing more than a name. It's really no significant impact to anybody that I can see. It would help me get rid of a lot of my cars, though. Because we collect cars like nobody's business.
No. All right. Questions for the Maxwells?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, the Maxwell's, predominantly, your work hours are probably the same as any other business you.
8 to 5.
8 to 5, and that this crushing operation by no means is envisioned to be a 24-hour.
Oh, absolutely not. We can't find staff to drive tow trucks on call 24 hours. It's, there's no way, It's just gonna be a daytime project. It, won't go past 5 o'clock. We do have some security lights installed at the location, but, it won't be, anything lighting up the night sky or anything like that. It's really a low-key thing, and, it just seems that it was going to be a complementary business to our current business, which, we have probably, 400 cars in our yard, and, a lot of those can just get stuck in a crusher and they can go away. And, it would make our whole appearance of our operation, although there isn't really any visible, there's no visibility of our business to the public roadway. There's a narrow driveway. We're having Capshaw Tree Service cut out one of the trees that is potentially a problem for trucks turning in and out. We've got that all arranged to get done as soon as they get a minute in their schedule. We've taken all the precautions to ensure that this is something that will fit in the area.
Thank you.
Mr. Mitchell?
So, Mr. Chairman, I said, so the larger trucks now go west to east, is that right? So they can make an easier turnout?
Yeah, so you can stay in the right-hand lane and take a left turn, and you can fit right in there. And there is a tree there, but it's not obstructive. We have had semi-drivers hit that tree, however, and I don't know how they do it exactly, but they do. And like I said, the one that was going west on 0 that was turning right, he cut hard, to the other lane, and then he turned right, and somebody passed him on the right and hooked him in the front end. So that was a problem, and, we've since alleviated that, but,
I said, and which tree are you gonna take out?
it's the one where your thumb is,
Oh,
right?
right over here, so that was the one that's closer to the.
So that one's hanging clear out over the
Okay.
road, and,
I think it's gonna be this one. The one right there?
yeah, it's got a main trunk and then 2 other kind of trunks that come out of it at a 45-degree angle, and they hang way out over 0 road, and, so anytime that you get anything that's taller than a flatbed and you try to turn in there, it'll skin it off and, leave you with a mess.
Just a quick look at area, I went out there as well. It's hard to tell much from the road, I didn't drive in, but 6.5 acres, I think, and it looks like half of it is probably not being used now, or do you anticipate?
Well, it's all used currently, but what we have is the place on the left side, which is just to the left of the little driveway there. That belongs to a fella named Dave Birch, and he runs a little welding and machine business right there. And he goes basically to the end of our right-of-way road there. And then the front portion of the square that's outlined there, that is where our shop is and our parking area for our employees and whatever customers do come to our yard. And then behind the shop is just access in and out for tow trucks and where we park our tow trucks. And then back where it shows green grass, that's where we have all of our vehicle storage currently.
So are
And so basically, pardon my interruption there, but right behind Mr. Birch's fence, there's an area that's approximately 100 by 120 that we really never have used because it's kind of on the left side of our driveway and it goes over to Custom Fiberglass's fence. And then it runs about 100 feet deep. And that's kind of the area that we're proposing to put the crusher in and have the rack sitting there. So we'll have that area that's gonna be the gravelled area. And this soil out there is really soft and, and it gets wet and it turns into just nasty mud. So, we're trying to make it so that we don't have just this big sloppy mud hole of a mess. And, just keeping it in a confined area is one of the things that's gonna help us a whole bunch with that.
Okay. Thank you. Anything else? You guys might want to just sit there for a minute. I was going to open public hearing and
Okay.
ask for people in favor, and I'm guessing you guys are. So I'd like to call the public hearing for consideration of a request from Bob and Corey Maxwell, doing business as On the Hook Towing, YO Crush, for approval of a conditional use permit to allow auto reduction and recycling center and use of a crusher in the light industrial zoning district. The property is addressed as 67080 Road. All those in favor of the application, would you please come forward?
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. Just for the record, give your names again and address.
Robert Maxwell, Corey Maxwell, our business address is 67080 Road.
Thank you. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
We might get you guys to let other folks come up. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in favor of the application, would you please come forward? Seeing none, anyone in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application, would you please come forward? Hello.
Hi, I'm Bruce L. Smith. I live across the road from there at 68090 Road. I'm not necessarily opposed to this, but I have a few questions.
Sure.
Mainly the easement leading into this property. How wide did you say that was? Or did you?
Mr. Chairman, Mike Hagler from Road and Bridge went out and estimated that the current road, not including the trees, is 21 feet.
The, Zero Road, 66 feet wide, right?
Zero Road is 66 feet wide.
Okay.
According to the information I see, you need, it should be at least 27 feet wide,
The driveway?
an easement, or, yeah, an easement into that property.
Okay.
And I'm not sure how the county looks at this. I've seen other problems along there with not, the access not being proper, and they're not wide enough. The trucks are having to turn way too wide to get in there. And what's happened, it happened about a month ago. They were turning into, let's see, this property, and there's a wreck there. And when that happens, when they close that road, they direct the traffic through my property. And I can see, I just think there's gonna be more traffic there. I don't know if that easement can be widened, so they have more swing room to get those trucks in there. I'd like you to look into that and see what that easement is exactly. It should be on the property deeds there.
So I'm wondering if we're using the word width of road and easement as,
I assume this is an easement right here that goes up into that, because there's a lot on Zero Road like that. And they sold this property at one time and sold those off and just left an easement. And that, to me, that seems to be a property, a problem up and down that road.
is that a flag lot, do you know?
I'm trying to pull the plat up
Oh,
right
okay.
now.
What-
Unless you have it.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
I was wondering if that is the deed is for a platted or for a flag-shaped lot.
Yes, sir. I have the,
Oh, there you go.
What's the neck of that?
I would read that as a 19-foot wide easement. It tapers, it's really narrow, right, and then it gets wider as it goes back.
Gets wider which way, Jason?
As you go to the north,
Gets wider to
it
the
gets
north?
wider.
And that didn't do any good for the turn in there.
Okay. Okay. So, as I understand, Smith, was it Smith?
Yeah.
Mr. Smith, as I understand, you're not necessarily opposed, but you're concerned that that 19-foot width should be 27, you said? And I was wondering where you got
According to the
27.
information I can find, and I've got another property up the road 5 miles, and when I bought that piece, there was an easement that went up through me, and it was only 12 feet wide.
Okay.
So I know there can be problems with these things, and I think that should be checked out.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask one question?
Yes,
So, But if they're going to remove that tree, does that effectively increase, they're talking about removing this tree right here. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right where they go through there.
I think they're talking about removing this tree.
Yeah, I mean, there should be a legal easement through there, and I'm just wondering what that is. I mean, I think that can be found easy enough on the, it'll be on these two property, I don't know if there's a property on each side of that drive.
I don't know whether that effectively increases the easement, or if they take this, if they remove that tree, does that change the easement along there? I just don't know.
Mr. Smith, I do have a question for you. You mentioned 20, it needs to be, you said it's 21, it needs to be 27. Where does the 27 come from?
You could look in DOT registrations for.
Oh, for turning radius,
For swing radiuses.
for a certain size truck.
That's for a, yeah, that's for a 48-foot truck, I think.
Okay.
I would just like that to be looked into. If these two property owners, they put a fence up there, there's not one there now, but I mean, if they could put a fence on their, I don't know if the easement's on one of these, the other. If someone puts a fence in there and it's not wide enough, it's gonna cause problems down the road here.
So there should be plenty of right-of-way for a turn. It's just a matter of, as far as county right-of-way, and, yeah, maybe the trees need to be,
Maybe
Cut
Bob
back.
knows what that right-of-way, you know how wide that right-of-way is?
Well, the county right-of-way is 33.
No, the one that goes through those two
Oh,
properties.
well, it's not actually a right-of-way, it's a piece of property that whole thing used to be one large piece of property. They sold the house on the right, they sold the house on the left.
That's what I figured.
Each of them have a driveway that comes in.
Right, how wide is that?
It's 21 feet is
Okay.
my side, and that's a
Okay.
piece of property that I own. But that's the access that goes to Mr. Birch's property on the left, and so it's recorded actually as an easement.
That's what I'm wondering.
Because it is access to his property.
Right.
And so then it opens up to my whole 12 acres back there,
Mhm.
and 11.6 or whatever the one it was. But that piece of property, you know, it can't be widened. Taking out that tree, which we did get the permission from the neighbors to have that done, and that gives us effectively a wider radius right there. Although, because of the accident that we did have there already, we've chosen to not go that direction.
Yeah.
And it'll sure help just having it open up.
It'll be
and
better if you come from
visibility.
the west to swing in there.
Yeah, so we come from the west, we can go to the shoulder and make the turn left, and it'll be a comfortable turn. You know, I pull a tow truck and a tractor trailer rig together behind it, and I
Okay.
can make it in there in one shot without ever even slowing down much, you know. That we can't help how people drive, you know.
Right.
That's our biggest thing, and thank goodness that's what keeps me in business.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, not everybody is thankful about that, about the foolish drivers, but I am.
Yeah, I'd just like the county to look into this, this situation, because I've seen it several times along there. I
Well,
think,
and they can't change the overall, I mean, if they could talk, you know, the lady next door into selling 6 feet of her land, then we could have a 27-foot driveway.
yeah, what I'm saying, if they both put fences up to that 21 foot now,
But it's still gonna be 33 feet from the center line, so it's not going to be problematic, because where we drive does not reach the corner of the county's right-of-way and our property line.
okay.
So that's the big takeaway from it all, is that it
Yeah, if the
doesn't,
county approves it, it's fine with me.
it doesn't reach that, so, you know, we're not trying to be a pain in anybody's neck here.
No.
It's,
Okay.
thank you.
Anything
Or,
else?
No, I guess I should ask you anything
but
else.
thank you for your input.
Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application, please? Hello, sir.
Hi, my name's Brad Hurt. I live at 1094 Rossburg Road, directly across. And just the other day, there was a truck coming in from the other direction, and they blocked traffic The wreck he's talking about, we own the easement for the Cade. There's a ditch along the other
Okay.
side. And it was about quitting time, and there was probably 150 cars that went down our private property, and it's marked private property, do not enter.
Is that frontage road? Is that what we're talking about on the north side?
It's a Cade easement is all it is. It
Oh,
belongs
is it?
to the property owner, me.
Oh, okay.
Mr. Chairman, can I get you to stand up to the microphone?
Sure.
Awesome, thank you.
And you say Zero Road is 66 feet wide? Where's that measured from? I just cannot see that being correct.
Mr. Chairman, the note I have from Mike Hagler has it measured from the edge of the telephone pole across the street onto the other side of the easement as his measurement for Zero Road being 66 feet.
That also is indicated on this plat,
That
66 feet.
telephone pole, if I'm correct, according to when we bought it, says we own to the center of Zero Road. I know that there's an easement on Zero Road, but that whole ditch along there belongs to us, the ditch that they're using to turn. They come within about that far of that telephone pole when they go west, and eventually, if it's slippery, they're gonna probably knock it down. And that is our property that they're using on the edge of the road. Did you get a letter from us? Because we sent one.
I did.
Okay. And
Well,
pictures?
it's in our packet,
All right.
and that's one of the reasons I went out there to look see was having read that.
Does that tree belong to, is it on the neighbor's property?
It's on the neighbor's property, yes.
And they're gonna let you cut it down so that you can drive on their property?
It's so that we don't hook the tree coming in, and they're fine with that.
Well, there was a truck coming from the other direction that he was talking about 3 or 4 days ago. We got pictures of it. He missed the corner, had to back up, block traffic. Again, people driving down our private road. It's a very busy road ever since that bypass went in. I see more and more trucks going that way, and a lot of them are overloaded. I've seen D9 cats on 6 axles, which I know isn't, you can't legal a D9 cat on 6 axles. But they use that road to dodge the port also. It's just gotten busier since that bypass went in. A lot of trash. I've witnessed those guys throwing gloves and wrappers and stuff out the window. It's
Who
just,
has?
I have.
Who has done
They're
it?
wreckers.
Okay.
The easement they're or the part of the ditch, I think, I'm pretty sure belongs to our property. Is that not correct? Does the property owner not own that?
So I guess I'm confused. There's the road, there's a shoulder, there's telephone poles, and then there's the ditch. We're talking the north side of,
Mm-hmm.
and there's also the mailboxes.
Right,
Looks like
those are
everybody
on my
pulls-
property also.
So there's a lot of people pulling over there using mailboxes as
Yeah.
well.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
They have made that wider. There's another set of mailboxes right up to where they turn. And they've got the ditch all ground out, the grass gone from it there too.
I guess I'm thinking if that stuff's on your property and you don't want it there,
Well, there's a safety issue too with those big trucks turning in there and blocking traffic.
well, maybe they have to go somewhere else with their mailbox. I don't know. But, you know, if somebody's irritating you because they're pulling onto your property.
I'm
you
not
got
worried about the
mailboxes.
mailboxes. My mailbox is there too.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for your input.
There's definitely a safety issue though, because whenever they can't make the turn in a semi, it's just not wide enough.
I think it would be interesting to have some turning templates applied to the driveway.
Well, the guy coming in the other day was coming from the west and he still couldn't make the corner.
Huh.
He was hauling a van trailer.
Yeah, and unfortunately, it's not a there's not a center turn lane there. It's a rural type roadway, and that whole area is.
It's not even a state highway. It's not in very good shape.
Yeah.
They don't really keep it up very well. They do plow
Mr.
it though.
Chairman. Mr. Chairman, Mr. Hurt, you also have a trucking business out there, don't you?
I'm retired now, yes.
Do you pull trucks into your property?
I do not anymore,
Okay,
no.
I'm sorry, I had you confused.
I
for
have
some
one
reason.
truck and 2 trailers left for sale.
Oh, for sale, maybe that's where I've seen it, on the
Yeah.
side that says Hurt
Yep,
Hurt
it's out in my
Trucking.
hayfield, yep.
And you're able to pull your trucks into your property, okay?
Not really. I gotta get clear down in the ditch I had a shop out by where their other shop was at.
Hmm.
And then I'm retired now,
Oh,
so
okay.
it's not an issue, but I've had to take down some fence posts and stuff to get trucks in there.
And if legal was here, they could probably explain it a little bit better, but my understanding is your property probably does go to the center of Zero Road,
Mhm.
but then there's a 33-foot easement on your property that's essentially dedicated to the use of the roadway. And that's where I think Mike Hagler was talking about the use of pulling off the edge of the road was an appropriate use of that easement, that would be allowed then to do that.
But when they come from the other direction, they're pulling over in oncoming traffic. I mean, that's the only way you can make that corner, is to get way over off the other side of the road to make that right. And I'm sure there's guys gonna be lost and wanna come in from the other direction. That's just, truck drivers are not the smartest
There's a
bunch.
bunch, and I can't help people the way they drive. I mean, that's really.
I know, I've been one all my life, and I've been around them, and I know they pull some silly things. But there's gonna be a wreck if semis are going in and out of there.
Thank you.
There already has been a wreck.
Thank you, Mr. Hurt. Anything else for us? I think we got a sense of your concern.
I guess that's it.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Would you please come forward? Anyone else in the audience wishing to speak in opposition to the application? Seeing none, close the public hearing and open the application up for discussion.
Chairman,
Mr.
I
Mitchell.
I just had one, so Road and Bridge, like their responsibility is to come out and look at the easements and look at the turning radius? I mean, is that part of their purview, is when they come out and look at these things?
Mr. Chairman, yes, sir. So Mike and I had a couple of conversations in regards to, Mr. Hagler and I had a couple of conversations in regards to this
So
approach.
So we could re-engage with them and ask them if they, with the concerns that have been addressed, that they could re-look at it and see if there's any issues that they think need to get resolved.
Yes, sir.
Along those lines, and it may require the services of an engineer, but the actual traveled way going into the property may need to be widened out, and I don't know if there's a culvert there, maybe the culverts need to be extended, so that a sufficient radius is provided for westbound vehicles, westbound semis, to be able to make that turn and not have to drive off the edge of the road. So the radius from both sides going into that property may need to be extended, and like I say, culverts extended, and getting an engineer involved to find out how long that needs to be. Jason, question?
Would you defer that to Mike Hagler at Road and Bridge to allow him to engage whomever he feels is appropriate to come up with those recommendations, or?
So the county pays?
No, let Mike determine, perhaps. He's got some knowledge there where he can go out there and swing some radiuses and
That's fair.
say if he sees a problem with the edge of the road there, perhaps Mike could recommend additional paving.
Using a certain H20 loading or
Right, yeah.
length or whatever.
Mhm.
Sure. Okay. You guys have any,
Well, I wanted to comment to that because.
If you'd come up
I'm
with
pretty sure Jason would probably remember, but this isn't about whether or not we can turn it into our property because we already have the towing company there. It is allowed. Before we did that, we had to get approval from Mike. He came out, he measured everything, he made sure everything was okay, and we had to turn that in before we ever bought the property, if you remember correctly, because you were in the planning department at that time. So, you know, yes, there was an accident. It was not, we were not at fault. The gentleman admitted he knew he was gonna turn, he just thought he could beat him. No, he shouldn't have done that. We have required that our drivers, so other people that come to our business or any other business on Zero Road, you know, are going to have the 66 feet to be able to turn into a property. And I know it can be done. I've watched our tow truck with truck and trailer behind it turn into our property multiple times. So I don't know if we need to waste a lot of time on that, because Mike did come out, he did have us add crushed asphalt to the driveway, you know, to build it up some. You know, he had requirements that we did before we started running a tow company there. If we need to readdress it, we can. I just didn't want to waste a lot of people's time because that has been done.
okay. Thank you. I guess the way I'm seeing it is that we have a new application here for a new conditional use permit, and obviously it's still a concern. And I think what Jason has suggested sounds reasonable to me, that we again engage Road and Bridge to go out, and knowing there's been accidents and knowing that maybe larger trucks are going to be using this or have been using it than were anticipated back in the day. I don't think it's a lot of time and effort myself. So. Any other discussion? Chair would entertain a motion for consideration of the conditional use permit 22-6.
Okay, I would vote, motion, the Planning and Zoning Commission has considered all relevant factors, including those not limited to the 2000 zoning resolution. Find the conditional use meets the 4 required findings of Chapter 11, Section 2D. On the basis, I move to approve the CUP 22-6 with a due pass recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners with the conditions that we've set forth, which is the applicant has to apply to the WDEQ and then provide written documentation that they've complied with that. And the second would be what Jason recommended, is having Mike Hagler come out and look again based on recent history and also the new CUP, whether he, you know, has any additional, you know, recommendations before it goes to the Board of County Commissioners.
I would second that motion.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor of the application for the conditional use permit 22-6 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. So your application, is that also January 3rd? Is set to go to the Board of County Commissioners January 3rd?
Yep.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anything else on the agenda? Public comment, is that it?
Public comment, and then staff has a request to see if you will check your calendars for January for a training. So end of January, beginning of February, staff will send out an email, but just check your calendars. Let me know if there's something that we need to work around. in order to get a training set up for the Planning Commission.
So, public comment, I'm assuming we don't have any. I was kind of hoping that get around the corner. So what is your suggested date for January training?
I didn't know if you wanted to try to do it before the January Planning and Zoning meeting, or if you wanted to do it on another night.
So I haven't looked. January planning and zoning is January 10th?
If I'm being a bit concerted here, I guess, that's right, real close to the holidays, I guess, everyone's busy. and
I'm sorry,
back-
January 1.
January.
Yes, so the January planning and,
Before the January meeting.
like, during the day before it.
Oh, the 10th.
Sorry.
So January 10th.
Yes, I can't find my application, my calendar.
Okay, I believe it's January 10th.
That's what I just.
Okay. Or if you would like to do it another evening.
What are we training for?
Just an annual planning commission training.
Okay.
What time would it start?
That's kind of what I'm asking you, if you want to meet at 4 o'clock, if you'd like to do it afterwards. If there's another time or date, we're looking at about an hour.
Any idea, agenda items forthcoming?
Forthcoming.
Do you think there's a lot of agenda items for that meeting?
Oh, for January 3rd? Right now, I believe I have one, possibly the subdivision, as well as another,
For January 10th?
for January 10th.
The reason I ask is I was debating in my mind if it was an after the meeting type training or a before the meeting.
Right now, we've tabled the subdivision to January, but that is, again, dependent on weather for them. Other than that, I have one other case for January at the moment.
I'm not opposed to before personally, but I don't want to speak for other members that may
I'm good for
have to
before.
work.
Before is fine.
Okay.
4 o'clock? Is that what you said?
Yes, sir.
Okay. 4 o'clock pre-meeting, 5:30 regular meeting.
And if there's any particular topics that you would like to cover or questions that you have, if you can start thinking of those and get them sent to me, we can make sure to add that to that training agenda.
Okay. No one's in the audience for public comment. Chair would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved to adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Aye. Meeting adjourned, 6:41 PM.